Monitor woke up and was scared when she saw her grandfather in her room. She tried to speak up, but he squeezed her mouth shut and told her to remain calm or he would kill her. Many years ago, in the distant village of Adodo, lived a young girl named Yetunde. She was the only child of her parents and the pride of her father. She was well behaved and always reminded by her mother to be of her best behavior and not bring shame to herself and the family. While Yetunde's mother Fadekemi was strict and monitored her closely, her father Adekola was very soft with her. He saw no wrong in her at all and was always quick to give her whatever she wanted. He had great plans for her and wanted her to be a medical doctor in the big city when she grows up. Yetunde was 16 years old when she finished secondary school, and her father was already making plans for her to get admission into the university. He was already saving up some money to that effect and would even sell his properties to make sure his daughter went to the university. Yetunde on her part was an intelligent and well-behaved girl who worked towards the big dream also and wanted to make her father proud. She had a friend named Jide who was also a boy of her age. They had both finished secondary school, and while Yetunde wanted to study medicine, Jide wanted to study law. However, Jide had an auntie abroad who had promised to help him study abroad, and he was hopeful towards that. Fadekemi had noticed the closeness between Yetunde and Jide, and she felt uncomfortable with it. She believed that a boy and a girl should not be friends, because even though they had no ulterior plans themselves, their bodies could betray them one day. She told Yetunde, "My lovely child, the pride of her father, our future medical doctor, I know you are smart and not wayward. You have always made I and your father proud, and we are happy to have you as our child. However, there is something I must bring to your attention. It is about your friendship with Jide. I know he is just your good friend with no strings attached, but you have to be careful. You are not a child anymore, and you can easily get pregnant if you don't shield yourself. I want you to reduce your closeness with Jide. If you want to meet him, make sure you are both outside. On no account must you stay with him indoors. Please, my daughter, may we not be unfortunate." Yetunde understood her mother and promised to obey her. Months later, Jide had finally received the good news of his admission abroad from his auntie. He was very overjoyed and went on to share the good news with Yetunde. She was also happy for him that his dream of becoming a lawyer was becoming real. But then she remembered something. "Jide, so you'll be going abroad. I won't see you again," Yetunde said sadly. Jide felt something in his heart and he assured her, "Yetunde, I'm just going for my studies, and you know this is for the best. I wish we can study together over there. But that notwithstanding, I will surely come back, and when I do, it will be massive by then because you would already be a medical doctor while I would be a lawyer too," Jide said and hugged her. The two teenagers could feel each other's hearts racing, and gradually their emotions started to rise. They were sitting in front of Jide's house at this time. But since Jide's mother had gone out and the house was empty, they proceeded to go into the house, allowing their emotions lead them. From what started with a kiss, they got enveloped and ended up exchanging their bodies, soul and spirits. Few days later, Jide traveled out and Yetunde was miserable. Jide was her only friend and she had grown so fond of him that it was hard for her to live normally without him. Fadekemi noticed her daughter's change in mood and her general attitude towards things ever since Jide traveled out, and she could not help but be relieved that the boy traveled out, because it was obvious that her daughter was already catching deep feelings for him. She knew Yetunde would soon get over him with time. However, weeks passed, but Yetunde did not get over Jide. She would always remain indoors and lost her natural liveliness. She had also lost her appetite towards food. Fadekemi found it strange and was getting irritated by her daughter's behavior. That fateful day, she decided that she was going to end whatever tie Yetunde had with Jide that was making her lose her taste for life. She then went into Yetunde's room, only to find her shivering on the bed. She touched her head and it was hot too. Filled with shock and fear, Fadekemi quickly rushed Yetunde to the hospital. Adekola was not at home that morning, as he had gone out earlier for his business. Yetunde was attended to by the doctor, but after conducting some tests, the doctor told Fadekemi that nothing serious was wrong with Yetunde, as it was just early pregnancy symptoms. Fadekemi seemed not to have heard the doctor clearly and asked the doctor to repeat himself. "Madam, your daughter is pregnant and she needs extra care and nutrition now." Fadekemi heard that loud and clear this time around, but it dropped like a bomb in her heart. She turned to look at Yetunde, who was already crying at this point. Fadekemi still did not believe it and took Yetunde to another hospital. It was then that the reality dawned on her. Her golden daughter had eaten the forbidden fruits. Fadekemi quietly went home, not being able to say a word to Yetunde, who followed her slowly behind. They got home, and Fadekemi still could not recover from the shock to bring herself to react. She dropped the pregnancy report booklets on the center table in the living room, while Yetunde knelt down by a corner, crying and wriggling her hands. Adekola returned home at that time, filled with excitement and triumph, because he had just gotten the news that Yetunde had been given admission to study medicine at the Federal University. As he entered into the house, his excitement faded into suspicion and curiosity as he saw his wife sitting, looking lost and lifeless, while his daughter knelt down at a corner, crying like someone who had been caught stealing. "Fadekemi, what is the matter? Are you mourning someone or what?" Fadekemi could not say a word. She just looked at her husband, picked the pregnancy report from the table, and gave it to Adekola, who opened it and read it curiously. As his eyes caught the word positive in the results, he flung the paper away and thundered, "Can someone tell me what is going on here now? What is the meaning of that result?" Fadekemi had to speak up at this time. "Baba Yetunde, our daughter is pregnant." The news dropped like a bomb to him. He had come in excitedly to share the good news of her admission into the university, only to be greeted with the news of her pregnancy. "No, you don't know what you're saying. It can't be my Yetunde." Adekola went to meet Yetunde and bent over her. "Tell me what your mother said now is a lie," Adekola said while looking deep into her eyes. Yetunde could not stand his eyes and bent her head downwards. She could not say any word and only cried louder. Adekola could feel bile grow in him, and he suddenly pulled Yetunde up and thundered, "Who did this to you? Answer me before I strangle you." Yetunde swallowed hard and stuttered, It is Jide." Adekola staggered backwards, while Fadekemi screamed, "Ah, I knew it. I warned you. I saw this coming and I warned you. Ah, you have killed me." At that point, Adekola forcefully dragged Yetunde out and headed for Jide's house. They met Jide's mother at home, and Adekola told her that he had brought the goods her son ordered for. Your son got her pregnant, so I have brought her for you. She is now yours, Adekola said and left Yetunde there. Jide's mother immediately chased Yetunde away, shouting at her to leave with her bad luck. You want to spoil my son's life. Thank God he is not even around. Yetunde ran out of the compound, crying bitterly. She was filled with deep regrets at this time and wished she had not been carried away by her emotions. She did not plan for this at all and knew that she had really hurt her father. She could not bring herself to go into the house that night and had to sleep outside in front of the house. That night, Fadekemi and Adekola were gloomy. It was as if they were mourning the loss of a loved one, and each kept to themselves. The next morning, as soon as Fadekemi came out of the house, Yetunde immediately came and fell on her knees, crying and begging, Mother, please, forgive me. I am sorry. I know I have disappointed you. Please, don't throw me away. Yetunde cried and cried, begging for pardon. Fadekemi was moved with pity for her and had to accept her daughter. The deed had been done, and nothing can reverse it again. She told Yetunde to wait around while she begged her father on her behalf. Fadekemi went inside and went down on her knees begging Adekola to please forgive their daughter and give her a second chance. Adekola was really pained and heartbroken. It was hard to see all the good plans he had for his daughter come crashing because of a silly mistake she made. He lifted Fadekemi up and asked her, Why did Yetunde do this to me? I gave her all the love a father could give his daughter. I had good intentions for her, and in fact, I had just gotten the news of her admission into the university. Now what is the use of that? She has spoiled everything. She shattered all the dreams and hopes. Fadekemi then told her husband, My husband, I am sure we can still make out a way out of this. What she did is very heartbreaking, but I am sure she has learnt her lesson. She will have to face the consequences for her actions. But please, let us give her a second chance, Fadekemi pleaded. Adekola thought for a while before stating that he could go to the university and defer her admission for a year. By then, she must have given birth and she can then go to the university to study. But she must go with her baby so that she will bear the consequences for her actions herself. Fadekemi was grateful to her husband and brought Yetunde inside. Yetunde apologized to her father, promising him to still become a medical doctor regardless of the situation. Adekola forgave her and welcomed her back. Yetunde was taken care of by her parents, and she in turn constantly reminded herself of her resolve to do well and correct her mistakes. She was very much determined to make her father proud again. Months later, Yetunde went into labor and she was rushed to the hospital. She gave birth to a baby girl, but unfortunately, she suffered some complications that came with the risk of teenage pregnancy, and she died immediately after giving birth. Adekola was shattered. His hope of redemption was finally gone. There was nothing left again for him. Fadekemi cried her eyes out, mourning her daughter, but she had to be strong to be able to take care of her granddaughter. Adekola could not bear the tragedy. Yetunde was his only eye. She was his pride, and even though she had made the mistake once, she would have risen again and lived up to their dream. But now, death had taken her away. She was gone for life. If only she had not gotten pregnant in the first place. If only that child. Adekola seemed to remember something. That child was the cause of his daughter's death. He immediately dashed into the room where the baby laid. He walked towards the child and released his anger. "You cursed child! You killed my precious daughter. Why didn't you die instead? You are wicked." At that time, Fadekemi, who had been in the kitchen, came inside and saw Adekola looking at the baby as if he wanted to kill her. She immediately rushed and carried her. She knew Adekola had hated the child right from when she was born, and he had even refused to touch her. But she could not blame him though. He had lost his only daughter because of the child, so she knew she had to protect the baby from Adekola's anger until he came around. But Adekola never came around. In fact, he became worse. He soon started drinking and would come into the house every night drunk. His life lost all its meaning, and he did not see any reason to live for anymore. Fadekemi named her granddaughter Eniton, and she cared for her, constantly being reminded by her that Yetunde left a part of her in Eniton. She tried all her best to protect Eniton from Adekola's wickedness. Over the years, Eniton has grown and was now 10 years old, but yet Adekola had not gotten over the tragedy. He still hated Eniton, and it was now clear that it was pure wickedness that he showed to Eniton. Whenever Eniton would call him grandpa, he would give her a dirty slap, warning her never to call him that again. Eniton could not understand why her grandfather treated her that way. She would ask Fadekemi why he was like that towards her. "Grandma, why does grandpa hate me so much? What did I do to him?" Fadekemi felt really sorry for the little girl who was brought into this world under such circumstances. She would comfort and console Eniton, telling her that grandpa was just dealing with personal issues and he would soon come around for good. Adekola had totally turned into a drunkard and would not even take up his responsibilities anymore. Fadekemi knew very well than to confront him, because the one time she dared to confront him about his irresponsible actions, he descended heavily on her, and so she always avoided him and told Eniton to do the same too. One fateful night, Fadekemi had gone to bed and Eniton too was sleeping in her room. Adekola came back home drunk that night and went into the room to sleep. However, when he got into the room, he realized it was the wrong room as he saw his granddaughter sleeping on the bed. He turned to leave in anger, but an evil thought clouded his head and he immediately turned and went to meet her on the bed. Eniton woke up and was scared when she saw her grandfather in her room. She tried to speak up, but he squeezed her mouth shut and told her to remain calm or he would kill her. Eniton seized her breath out of fear, confused as to what her grandfather was doing on her bed. Adekola looked at her with venom in his eyes. "You evil child, you killed my beloved daughter. You must pay for that." And with that, Adekola pounced on Eniton and forced himself on her. It was a dark night for Eniton. In her 10 years on earth, her grandfather had not come close to her or touched her for once, and the first time he comes close was to hurt her in this way. She cried her eyes and heart out, begging to vanish from the surface of the earth. Adekola threatened her to keep what happened that night a secret, or else he would kill her. Eniton knew better than to disobey, and so that was how the series of abuse continued. Adekola would barge into her room anytime he willed and took advantage of her. Fadekemi noticed a change in Eniton, but anytime she inquired from her what the problem was, the little girl would deny having any issue. Fadekemi was not also suspicious one bit of Adekola because she had always known that he hated the girl and kept his distance away from her. Adekola had degenerated into a demon, losing all sense of humanity. His hobbies were now drinking to stupor and raping his granddaughter as a way to escape his reality. He continued with this for over 2 years until the evil came to light. Eniton had started to grow weaker and weaker by the day and was no longer able to do even the basic things. She had come out that morning to spread the little clothes she managed to wash. But as she stood there spreading the clothes, she suddenly felt a spin in her head and her eyes were dizzy. Before she could try to hold on to something, she lost her balance and fell to the ground. Fadekemi, who was sitting outside at the time, saw her and immediately rushed over, only to realize that she had fainted. She carried her and immediately went to the hospital. Fadekemi felt like she was having a deja vu. This has happened before to her. Yes, this same incident. She thought and remembered the sad memory. The doctor had come out and given her the news. Madam, your daughter is pregnant. This was the same news that destroyed Yetunde and took her away. Now, her granddaughter too? No! Fadekemi felt like she was going crazy. Eniton was just 12 years old. So who could do this to her? And to make matters worse, the little girl was sick and going to be on admission because she had suffered both physical injury and deficiency owing to the constant forceful abuse and the unexpected pregnancy. Fadekemi cried her eyes out as she sat beside Eniton, praying for her to come out of this alive. She blamed herself too for failing Yetunde and now her granddaughter. Eniton was too weak to move or talk, and so Fadekemi was still in the dark as to who impregnated her and secretly cursed the person. After 13 years of being abroad, Jide was finally a barrister and had even set up his own chambers over there, where he was well known as one of the best lawyers. He decided to return home after setting everything in place. If things go as planned, he would also get married and travel back abroad with his wife. His mother was most excited to see him after all these years, and after all the pleasantries and entertainment, Jide popped one question. Mother, when last did you see Yetunde, and how is she? He still had not forgotten about her, and in fact, he came back partly because of her. His mother was shocked to hear the question. She thought he had forgotten about her, and right now, she did not even know how to explain everything to Jide. Mother, I asked you a question. How is Yetunde? Jide's mother had to bring herself to tell Jide all that happened after he left. Jide was dumbstruck. He found it unbelievable. Mother, all this happened and you kept it away from me? Even when she died, you still did not think it right to tell me about my child? His mother defended herself. I did not want that to distract you or tell you anything that would make you take a rash decision of returning home when you have not even achieved anything that you went there to. And besides, who knows if the pregnancy was truly yours? Jide interrupted her immediately. If that pregnancy happened weeks after I had left, then it is mine. Yetunde is not promiscuous, and what happened was an error on both our parts, allowing our teenage emotions to rule us. I am very disappointed in you, mother. You overstretched it, Jide said and walked out of the compound. He had to go and see his daughter. He failed Yetunde, but he was going to make it up by being there for his daughter. He would not fail her too. Jide got to their house and did not meet anybody there. He asked a neighbor and was told that Fadekemi and Eniton were at the village medical center. Immediately, Jide went there. He saw Fadekemi, who was shocked to see him. She did not believe she would ever see him again. Jide asked her what they had come to do at the hospital, but Fadekemi asked him what he had come to do there after abandoning his responsibility for many years. Jide apologized, saying that he was never aware of Yetunde's pregnancy and had to come look for them as soon as he was told about the whole incident. Fadekemi started to cry. Yetunde did not survive it, and now her daughter Eniton. Jide was scared. What happened to her, ma? Is she okay? Fadekemi continued. I don't know how it happened, but Eniton is pregnant. Obviously, someone had been molesting her under my care, and I did not even know. I am finished. Jide stood still, shocked, trying to process the whole information. Someone had been raping his daughter, and now she's pregnant. He went to see Eniton, and his heart broke as he saw the little girl lay on the bed, weak and motionless. He could feel fury and bile build up in him as he thought of how he would strangle the deranged pedophile who had the guts to do this to an innocent child. At the moment, Fadekemi and Jide could not do anything because Eniton could not talk, so they waited patiently, each nursing regrets and anger in their hearts. They also refused to leave Eniton and slept at the hospital waiting for when she would regain her strength. The next day, Eniton seemed to have improved and was able to sit up, eat and talk. However, when they asked her who had been touching her, she refused to speak up. Jide saw that she was scared and trying to hold in strong, like someone who had been threatened, and so he had to create a safe space for her first. Eniton, I want you to know that you are safe with us. Nobody can do anything to you here. Grandma is here, and you can see me as your friend too. I love to help little children. As long as I and your grandma are here, no one will harm you. But you need to help us. You need to open up to us. Who has been hurting you? Eniton refused to talk, but after much persuasion, she opened up. It is Grandpa. He had been coming into my room at night for long, and he said he would kill me if I tell anybody. Fadekemi was shocked and confused. That is unbelievable. She knew Adekola hated her, but not to the extent of raping her. He could not even bear to touch her. Eniton, are you sure? Yes, Grandma. Jide was boiling inside at this time. Her grandfather did this to her. You will surely pay. By the time I am done with you, you will regret ever conceiving such thoughts, not to talk of executing it, Jide thought to himself. Jide paid for a private nurse to come and attend to Eniton, specially at the hospital, while he and Fadekemi went to sort out an emergency. They went home to confront Adekola and to try to get him to confess to his acts so as to have evidence. Jide had to hide at a corner outside while Fadekemi went inside to confront Adekola. Kola, you are a very useless man. Your life is already useless and you will never know peace. So you have been raping your own granddaughter, a child you were supposed to protect. You are evil. You must pay for this. Adekola was drunk as usual, and he was not even bothered about Fadekemi's accusation. And so what if I rape her? She destroyed my daughter. She killed my Yetunde. She has to pay. I must destroy her life too. Adekola spat out hateful words. Fadekemi was shocked. Adekola, you are worse than the devil. After all these years, you still blame the poor girl for the death of your daughter. You seem to forget that Yetunde is to be blamed for her own death. If she had not gotten pregnant, probably she would have still been alive by now. Eniton is just an innocent girl that was brought into all of this. And now you have gotten her pregnant. Adekola, you are wicked. Adekola was pleased. That serves her right. She will pay for her evil. She is an evil child. Fadekemi could not bear it anymore, and she rushed at Adekola, pulling his shirt and hitting him hard in the chest while cursing him. Adekola in anger pushed her down, threatening to kill her and Eniton if she does not respect herself. At that moment, Jide, who had been listening and recording from his hiding place, came inside to rescue Fadekemi. "You wicked man, I will make sure you pay for all you have done." Adekola looked at Jide and recognized him to be the man who impregnated his precious daughter. "You! So after ruining my daughter's life and killing her, you have the guts to step your foot into my house. I will kill you today." And with that, Adekola rushed to attack Jide, but Jide shifted to the side in defense, and Adekola, under the influence of alcohol, lost his balance and fell to the ground with that force. He laid motionless on the floor, and after waiting for a moment to see if he would get up, Jide and Fadekemi had to rush him to the hospital. On getting there, he was taken to the emergency ward, but after trying to revive him, the doctor confirmed him dead. Adekola's liver had been damaged due to prolonged consumption of excessive alcohol, and he had suffered an acute liver failure. The force at which he fell only caught the tiny thread that was holding his life. Fadekemi did not know what to feel. She was frustrated and heartbroken. She had just discovered about her granddaughter's abuse, only to lose her husband that same day. She did not know why Adekola allowed the devil to use him. He was not like this. He was the best father to Yetunde, and instead of him to extend that same love to Eniton, he chose to be hateful and vengeful. He could not even forgive the little girl for whatever he claimed she committed, even after all these years. Now he was dead, and the poor girl's life has been destroyed. Jide felt really sorry for all the problems that had happened, and he blamed himself for being the cause of them all. If only things had been different. Eniton, who was recovering before, started to bleed and was relapsing. A scan was carried out on her, and it was discovered that she had an ectopic pregnancy. The baby was not in her womb, but in her fallopian tube, and there was no way she could carry such pregnancy to term. Her fallopian tube would either burst, or worst case scenario, she would lose her life. The only safe solution was to induce a miscarriage and evacuate the baby from her fallopian tube. Fadekemi and Jide immediately gave their consent as far as it would guarantee Eniton's life. The procedure was done, and weeks later, Eniton was fully recovered. She came back home and was relieved to hear that Adekola would no longer come back home again. Fadekemi also had to look for a way to explain to her that Jide was her father and the circumstances surrounding her birth. Eniton was sad, but glad to know that she could have a father's love at last. Jide begged Fadekemi that he would like to take she and Eniton abroad to stay with him. He had decided that he would never get married again and would dedicate his life to honoring Yetunde by taking good care of their daughter. He also wanted Fadekemi to go with them so that she could also help him in looking after Eniton, as he did not want to expose her to any stranger in the name of nanny. Fadekemi thought of it and agreed, since she did not have anything again holding her back in her home. Her husband was dead, and her granddaughter would be going with her father too. Jide started to make preparations for their traveling documents, and soon they all traveled abroad. He enrolled Eniton in a school, and one evening while they were eating, Jide asked Eniton, "What would you love to be in the future?" Eniton smiled and excitedly said, "A medical doctor." Jide was shocked and saw the reincarnation of Yetunde in Eniton. Fadekemi could not help but cry. "Adekola, if only you had loved Eniton and given her a chance, she would have still made you proud by becoming a medical doctor. Truly, Yetunde lives on, and her dream is alive." Jide ensured to take good care of Eniton, ensuring she lacked no care or attention. She grew up and finally became a medical doctor, bringing joy, comfort, and fulfillment to her father and grandmother. Thank you for watching this story. Please let me know what you think about this story and share with me what morals you could pick from this story. Most importantly, this story is an awareness against the danger of child abuse and teenage pregnancy. So please do well to share with your loved ones and like this story also. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you've not done so. Until I bring another story your way. Bye!